And here we go with the CMC Fabrication 150 at Daytona International Speedway. Bobby Brill bringing the do-gooders number one. Oh, and Matt Johnson already. One way in, one way out, 125. Danny Dow in second. And we are green flag. Bobby Brill takes the green.
I'll tell you what, it's great, but at the same time, man, the nerves and stress are just running through my veins right now.
But looks like Jake Rowell is gonna hang on and win the Midnight Cheese Grater 75 here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Oh, and Bobby Brill into the wall, first turn.
Straight into the wall.
Dean Ritt's our leader.
Dean Brummett wins the Between the Lines 70 here at the Roval. Congratulations to our first two-time winner. And there they go. Oh no! And there it goes. Oh no, yellow flag. So we are gonna have a green-white checker. I don't know. Chad Wampler taking the checkered flag here at Talladega. Racing car is going to come in and win the Paint by Night Monster Match at the Monster Mile 75.
And boogity, 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 we're green flag racing in the Indy.
Troy Dow just gets into him, or Bobby Brill is going to take the victory here at the Battle of the Brickyard 185.
Troy Dow hard on the loud pedal, green flag in the air in Pocono. Danny Dow gonna bring this one home.
Week number 9, it is throwback week. Jake Rowell gets a huge restart.
Oh, they're wrecking already. The DuPont team reigns supreme at the Crashing Cactus 125.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Number 48, Brandon Key, bringing us to the start line. You can hear how much off the gas Daniel Bowdler has to get. Mid-South Madness, week number 10, Daniel Bowdler is the king.
And Watkins Smith and Sean, and we're green flag racing.
Jacob Smith coming across the finish line, first place here at the Road Rumble 125 at the Glen. Good evening, everyone, and welcome out to Speed Racing Network, where we present tonight's fantastic race, Last Chance 150 at Chicagoland Speedway. We're here with MidSouth Madness. In this league, this is the last week of their regular season, and so there's a lot of spots to the playoffs on the line tonight. There's a lot of racing to get done tonight, so we got 100 laps. We get 2 fast repairs, so if you wreck, you're not necessarily out of the race immediately. And then the top 8 are getting paid tonight for tonight's race, but again, playoff implications all over the place tonight, and somebody is going to get into the playoffs tonight, and there's going to be some really good drivers that are left out of the playoffs tonight as well. So while we have a chance here, let's take a look at our current standings. So this is after 11 weeks, and so far 9 people have punched their tickets into the playoffs. And so Dean Brummett, Bobby Brill, Jake Rowell, Troy Dow, Danny Dow, Chad Wampler, and Daniel Bowdler, all of those have wins this season, and so they are in the playoffs. Adam Pettit and Chris Massey don't have wins, but they've already accrued enough points that they are automatically in the playoffs now, so there's nothing that can be done tonight to kick them out of the playoffs. They are in to go. Now, the next 6, so Aaron Gerwitz, Devin Zimmerman, Matthew Johnson, Joseph DuPont, Taylor Smith, Stan Hausman, all of those, they have plenty of points to be up in the cut right now, but there's a possibility tonight that they could get kicked out based on points alone. And so you can see on the other side of the screen, so Sean Dice, Justin Boyles, Mike Lepicki, David Duke, AJ Pritchett, those all have a chance to point their way in tonight. Now, everybody else on that list has to win to get in. And so there are definitely some people out there that can point their way into the playoffs, but there are also a lot of people here that they've got to win to get in there. And so huge race tonight. I'm joined by my co-broadcaster, Brandon Superman Brand Browning. How's it going, Brandon?
What's happening, brother?
Man, it is great.
Just been hanging in there. Lost all track of time. I'm not going to lie to you. I was trying to catch the end of the Las Vegas race in real life to see what was going on there. Of course, my driver having the year he's been having, much like some of these drivers in MidSouth Madness that haven't had the season that they wanted, Sean. There's a lot of them. I've talked with a few of them that, they wanted better weeks. They wanted better seasons. They felt that, they could finish 3, 4, 5 positions ahead of where they did, and it just hasn't worked out that way for some of them.
Now, and there's so many guys out there on the track, and typically we've had anywhere between 35 and 42 drivers per night. And so at some point, it's just not going to be your night. And if you string together a bunch of those weeks of just bad nights, then you come up with what a lot of these guys have come up with. I'll tell you, just looking at the list, man, there are some fantastic drivers on here that really could be in the playoffs right now, but they just haven't had luck go their way.
Yeah, and that's for certain. And there's a couple drivers, and I don't mean this, first and foremost, the 2 drivers that I'm about to talk about. I don't mean this in any negative manner whatsoever. But, when you look at the list, Sean, when you look at the currently out list and you see names, like David Duke, Marshall Stanley, Danny Setzer, Kyle Spees, Thomas Rutherford, some of those guys that you see that are going to miss this, some of those are just must win, and everyone can't win. But then you look in and you've got Taylor Smith and Stan Hausman and Joseph DuPont who have outclassed these guys on the season, the entire season. And maybe, in some eyes or in some stats, you don't expect them to be on level playing field. However, this season, with the weeks that they've put together and the improvements that they've made, if you told me right now, back at the beginning of the season, that David Duke would be out of the playoffs, I'd have told you were crazy, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely some people here that have been surprises on the season. I'll tell you, I keep saying every week, Taylor Smith is the most improved driver in this entire league. So last season, he had a lot of trouble staying on the track and got into a lot of wrecks and that sort of thing, and really didn't have that many great finishes. But this year, he's really turned it around, and he is up there in the cut right now.
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right. And Joseph DuPont, he honestly, I fully expected by this point in the season, actually, I expected DuPont's name to be in the green. I will say that you're right. Most improved driver on the season from that last season at this point to this season at this point has to be Taylor. Taylor's put in the work. Taylor's, done amazing things that, he's put in time. Like, I see him in the Discord here and there. Like, he'll just be sitting in the Discord by himself, running official races, practicing driving the cars, just learning how to race in iRacing. And it showed, he's positive 2 right now, so a bad race could obviously hurt him. But, not a whole lot to play with when you look on the other side of the cut line, Sean. It's, Sean Dice has to not only beat him by 6 points to get to the cut line, but then he has to beat Taylor by 8 spots to take Taylor's spot. Same with Justin Boyles,
I mean, I want to look at this from a different angle also. If you look, you can see the team names there as well. And so we have some teams in here that don't have anybody in the playoffs right now. And then we have one team, we have Stake Dance Racing, that has all 4 of their members in the playoffs currently, 3 of them in with wins. And then we have Stryker Motorsports with 2 of them in on wins. We've got a couple of Bronco Motorsports guys up there that one has a win and one's in on points, a couple of Rev Racing guys. So the team aspect is going to play a role in the playoffs as well. So everybody wants their teammate to be in the playoffs is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that's, that's where it's huge. And, you talk about that again, and I'm going to, flash more praise his way. I want you to look right now, Sean, and everyone at home watching with us, look for the do-gooder's name. You see Taylor Smith in 14th as the do-gooder's lead guy, but then you look next for his teammate. Let's say he makes the playoff, Sean. It goes right back to what you were saying, that, you're going to want teammates, but his next highest teammate is all the way down in 30th in a must-win situation. That's going to be Kyle Spees. So really, really tough to go into the playoffs and not have the teammate help, like you said, that Steak Dance, that Striker, Bronco, those guys have. Right now, Rev'd Racing with two. Another one that really honestly surprises me, again, beginning of the season, I'd have told you were crazy, that you're only going to have one tank racing driver right now inside of the playoffs. It's absolutely crazy to me.
It definitely is, but hey, man, that's what happens when you only got 15 guys going to the playoffs. But I'll tell you, so TR, Thomas Rutherford, our good friend and a previous broadcaster here, he does an interview every single week for TR's Corner, and this week he sat down with somebody from Steak Dance Racing. So let's take a look at that.
Hey, good evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of TR's Corner. And this is the last TR's Corner for the regular season. And tonight we have with us Mr. Chad Wampler. Chad, how you doing, bud?
Oh, I've been better, but I'm hanging in there, just trying to keep spirits up and so forth. So,
absolutely. And tonight, I mean, it's the end of the regular season. You're in the playoffs, so I'm sure that'll keep your spirits up into the championship part of the season. But before we talk about that, let's talk about, Steak Dance Racing, the team itself, the brand. You've really been a promoter of the brand. It's great seasoning. We've got them as a sponsor this season as well as a team sponsor for you. But we had Daniel Bodler on a couple of weeks ago. He's your team captain, but really the team itself is part of a brainchild of you as well. So tell us about how it came together.
Well, I was actually racing in a league with David Duke a few months back before MSM really got running for me anyway. He invited me in for the last half of the first season you guys ran. So I got involved with you guys from that perspective. And I just got asked by Bowdler, asked me to join a team with him. He didn't have a name or anything. And I actually worked with the creator of Steak Dance years ago, the job that I work currently now. It's a good friend of mine, Kim. It's great seasoning and everything. And we didn't have a name. We didn't have any kind of, any idea what we were going to go for. And I just threw it out there, Steak Dance Racing. I thought it would be something cool to do. I'd already kind of put Steak Dance on some of the cars I've been racing and iRacing just for fun, just to throw his name out there and make it look a little more legit, And it's a beautiful thing that it became a legit thing now. So I'm extremely happy to see all the things that's happened and, the support that I've gotten from MidSouth Madness and so forth, and all the guys in the league most everyone's tried it. I know you've tried it and you love it and everything. And
yeah,
it's just something that just kind of blossomed from there. So it's really how it goes down. And like you said, we got Kim Steak Dance. He's actually got involved a little more in the league other than just the team itself. So I'm just really glad to see that. And I just wanted to give a little bit of support to a friend of mine and just have fun at the same time.
That's pretty awesome, to supporting a friend, supporting a local business. I'm guessing there in Evansville, he's out of there as well, right?
Yeah, based out of Evansville. He does all the packaging himself and so forth and ships it all out. So he's an entrepreneur for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I would highly suggest that to anybody that hasn't tried it. And, speaking of seasoning, and you've got a famous saying, I think it's risk it for the brisket.
Yeah, risk it for the brisket. Actually, it randomly came up with another buddy that I work with. He just said something about brisket, and I said risk it. And I never really thought about the risk it for the biscuit, and it just kind of clicked. I just said it a few times in the middle of a race, and everyone loved it. And I just kept going with it, So I getting near the end of the race, and it's like crunch time. That's I'm trying to motivate my guys and my team to risk it for the brisket and get it in there. Steak Dance to the front.
And you did that once this season already. I mean, Steak Dance has a couple of wins with Bodler, but you took it in Daytona, and that was probably one of the closest finishes I have ever seen. We had to go back and look at the replay after the race. It was a very exciting race, but it got you in the playoffs. Tell me a little bit about that race and what you were feeling there at Daytona.
Well, I knew I knew my best chance, obviously, getting into the playoffs on a win would be a plate track. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to, the first race of the season was Talladega. I wasn't able to participate fully through that race. So I knew coming into Daytona, I had to throw it on the line. I had to get it up there, and I knew I could do it. So coming into this league, I've learned a lot from David Duke and some other guys that brought me in and kind of put me under their wing and so forth. And Bowdler, for sure. Bowdler's taught me a lot about oval racing and stuff because you and me have talked a lot about road racing. That's my preferred. That's where I started my racing career, I guess you could say. That's where it really brought me in. But I've learned so much about oval, and I knew going into this that I don't have the pace on some of these tracks, especially the short tracks that some of these guys do. Some of them are just like aliens to me, but it's that motivation of every week I've seen myself getting closer and closer to those top guys and sticking with them. But I knew going into Daytona, I had to make something happen there. And luckily it worked out. And I've been in that situation before in the front, and just Jake Roel, man, he put pressure on me the whole time, but man, it was a dang good race.
It was a very good race. And again, that's what got you into the playoffs. So tonight, being at Chicagoland, last race of the regular season, what are your plans for the race this evening?
Well, obviously, I'm always going to go out there and risk it for the brisket. We got to know that.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to do my best to get up there. I don't believe Bowdler is going to be there with us tonight, unfortunately, but we've got Cody, a friend of his, that I think is going to fill his spot. So we'll have that fourth guy in there. But obviously, like I said, I got to go in there and try to win it. But our main goal really is just I'm going to try to keep my eye out for Stan, and hopefully he has a good result too, because we really still want Stan to be in the playoffs. I want that 4 people of Stake Dance in playoffs contention. So that's the main goal, and hopefully we can pull that off tonight.
Yeah, and the team points, you guys are up there in team points as well. So lots of good runs out of Stake Dance Racing and that team as a whole, and look forward to seeing you guys run well at Chicagoland. But for you, I know you're going to be in the race tonight, where we see you somewhere in an underground bunker in Evansville at the moment, because you just recently got diagnosed with COVID, right?
Yeah, I sure did. I got tested this past Thursday and got my results on Saturday, and I knew by Friday night it was almost a guarantee. It's up and down, I feel like I've been hit by a truck, literally. Just I've never slept so much in my life. So I'm still going to make it there. I'm still going to be there tonight and do what I can, but we'll see what happens.
Well, get you some rest, Chad. It was good talking to you. Look forward to seeing you on the track tonight, and good luck to you and the rest of Stake Dance Racing.
All right. Thank you so much, Thomas.
All right, Brandon. So one of our very own, Chad Wampler, yes, he does have COVID, and he actually has a special car out there tonight for his COVID, for having the COVID virus, and we'll see that a little bit later on. But sad news to hear that he's got COVID. He is doing okay, but he, like he said, he's kind of weak right now, just kind of feeling blah.
Yeah, and I think, like I've talked to a lot of people that are kind of on the ropes about whether or not, COVID is serious, if it's something that you should be concerned about. I mean, it's kind of hit home for us, Sean. I mean, it's one of our close friends now that have hit COVID, and until I think you have that close person in your life, I guess, that gets COVID, you really don't think, it's no big deal. It's nothing, it's just a virus. And I will be certainly praying for Chad Wampler and wishing him the best and hoping that everything works out, because I know, anything can happen.
Absolutely. Now, I'll tell you, his team desperately needs him to be here tonight, because if you look at the team standings, Striker Motorsports is out front in the Risk It for the Brisket Team Championship.
Well, I'm going to say it now. I find it hard for anyone to dethrone those guys. Those guys are 3 and 4. I say 3 because we have 3 in victory lane, but 4 even with Trevelyan. And, we only score 3 points, but even Trevelyan has been a solid driver here. You're looking at, not good at math there, but a pretty good difference in the points. I think it's going to actually be, about 48 points?
Yeah, about
roughly?
6. Actually, it's 62. So 62
See,
points.
I'm terrible at math.
That's all good. It's all good.
So, I mean, as long as they keep showing up, and even let's say Jake Dean or Jacob have a bad week, Travis is always there. He hasn't found his way to the front yet, but he's been a solid driver. And ironically, it's the guy that popped up as soon as I loaded into the session that I'm riding along with. So I think they can make something out of this. I think they can come alive and really lock the championship up in a few weeks. But it's going to be tough for Stake Dance or anyone else, to catch Striker Motorsports.
Well, we certainly appreciate Stake Dance Racing as a team, but we also appreciate Stake Dance as a seasoning and as a sponsor. They are sponsoring our Risk It for the Brisket Team Championship, so $200 will go to the first place team. So definitely something to race for.
Yeah, and that's I'm telling you, I'm going to just if a Stake Dance driver wins this championship, I'm going to place a massive order with Stake Dance. I think I'm going to get one of everything they have to offer, and I think that's my challenge to Stake Dance's drivers. I know Chad Wampler, Daniel Bowler, Troy Dow, Stan Houseman, those guys, if they can bring home, I'll put in a decent-sized order if you guys win the team championship. If one of you guys brings home that driver's championship, I'll put in a massive order over there.
Sounds good, man. Well, let's take a look at our driver introductions. This is by Paints by Knight, our team introductions. So follow Ashton Knight on Trading Paints, or you can order a paint from him on www.speedracingnetwork.com. So Ashton Knight, great paint creator for these cars. And so first up, we got Striker Motorsports, our team leaders. So they say they're taking MidSouth Madness by storm, and that they are. So number 71, Travis Trevelyan, number 25, Dean Brummett, number 9, Jake Rowell, and number 15, Jacob Smith.
Solid race team. And I mean, top to bottom, if you look Trevelyan to Smith to Rowell to Brummett, if you look at any of these drivers, I've known Jake Rowell personally for about 12 years. I've known Dean Brummett for a while now. I used to actually work with Dean. So I know those two guys above the other two are absolutely in tune with being able to win this driver's championship.
That they are. So next up, Stake Dance.
And then Stake Dance Racing is another solid race team. We've got the 6 of Daniel Bowdler, the 812 of Chad Wampler, the number 2 of Troy Dow, arguably the better Dow, depending on who you're talking to, and the 39 is Stan Houseman.
Well, you heard Chad Wampler in the TR's corner there saying you got to risk it for the brisket, and that's what these guys do. If it comes down to the final laps, these guys will be there.
Yeah, and you can never count out any of these drivers. Right now, you're talking about the clutch time to be, the time to be clutch. Stan Houseman on the cut line, I think he clutches up tonight and he makes the playoffs.
Well, next up, we have Revved Racing. Now, these guys, they started off on fire. They've kind of been on fire the entire time, and they're in just fantastic drivers. So the 09 of Aaron Gerwitz, the number 11 of Brandon Key, the number 57 of Adam Pettit, and the number 87 of Sean Dice.
Yeah, and another solid race team. I think it's absolutely insane that one of these guys haven't found victory lane. I mean, they've been fast every single week, but they just haven't found victory lane. And I think Aaron Gerwitz, Adam Pettit already locked in. And I think it's Sean Dice that has the opportunity to race his way in. I wouldn't be surprised at all, Sean, if somehow Sean races his way in and yet another one of these drivers win. And we have 3 Revved Racing in at the end.
Absolutely. Aaron Gerwitz already inside the cut line, so as long as he just holds true to what he's been doing, then there's an opportunity there for 3 Revved Racers to get in.
Next up, we do have Tank Racing, the guys that have been together like fighter pilots all season long. A solid race team yet again. Really no holes in any of our race teams, but especially not this one. The 33 of Devin Zimmerman, the 46 of Mike Lepicki, the 79 of AJ Pritchett, and the 555 of Derek De Silva.
Now, this is another team that Zimmerman is currently pointed into the playoffs, and then you have Mike Lepicki that's right there on the cut line. So a couple guys here that could get in, but another team that really, there should have been a win somewhere along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike Lepicki, from the moment that the last season closed out, and I think he wound up finishing third in last season's points. I thought for sure Mike Lepicki rebounded and ran off and left these guys, but much like we've seen a lot of our guys, Sean, he's just found bad luck here and there, and unfortunately at this point, he's on the outside looking in, but do not count out any of these drivers to win tonight.
Next up, we have Bronco Motorsports. Now, these guys, they had a team called Wild Bill Motorsports, and they decided to change up everything. So they changed a couple drivers out. They changed their logo. They changed their attitude. Chris Massey, Greg Olnick, Brad Herman, Bobby Brill, and Bobby with 2 wins on the season. So definitely they have a lot to prove out there tonight, and they just kind of go for it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Outside of Bobby Brill, I don't know a whole lot about these guys. I've gotten to know Bobby pretty well over the last few months on iRacing, but I've got to know Chris, Brad and Greg as well, because every week it seems like, I'm saying their names on broadcast. I'm seeing them climb the boards, and you can see any of these guys. The point that stands out to me with this team, Chris Massey started dead last on the field at the Charlotte Roval, and he drove through the field and got a top 10. I mean, these guys are just killer drivers, and they try every week just as hard as anyone else, and it's absolutely insane. This is a very, very strong race team. Next up, the home team, if you will, Team Speed Racing Network. This is the team that holds my pick for the win tonight. I won't reveal it quite yet, but the 78 of David Duke, the 21 of Danny Dow, the only speed racing driver right now in the playoffs, the 17 of Danny Setzer, and the 44 of the Iceman, Thomas Rutherford.
Man, what a great team that they've put together this season, and it just hasn't seemed to kind of work out for them overall. They're starting to find their way a little too late for the team standings, but we've got Danny Dow who won his way in. David Duke has a chance here. Setzer is always dangerous. Thomas Rutherford is always right there at the finish line, so you cannot count these guys out at all.
No, and that's the one thing you don't want to do with Team SRN. They're a lot like the Nuggets this year in the NBA playoffs. The moment you start counting them out, you've already messed up. Because, the moment that you count any of these guys out is the moment that they show up huge and they go for it. And like I said, I think one of these guys, we'll get to it later, finds their way into victory lane and the playoffs tonight.
Next up, we got Flashpoint Racing, and so this is one team, again, we got a couple guys here that are just dangerous, but man, dangerous is a good thing here where they could win at any moment. Justin Boyles, we have been told, will not be here tonight, so he will not be able to make the playoffs. Jonathan Byer in the 66, Matt Johnson in the 62, Marshall Stanley in the 00. Any of those 3 drivers could win tonight.
Yeah, and the one thing that these guys they have to be glad for, in my opinion, is the fact that Justin Boyles, with his work schedule, hasn't been able to run every race, because that man, you know it as well as I do, Sean, we watched him purely dominate another mile and a half this last Friday, and he's really tuned into his racing ability. He is a rocket ship each and every week, but he's got 3 solid teammates as well, and now's their opportunity to poke their head out and really shine, maybe try to steal a win here and punch their way in as well.
Next up, we've got what we call the fun team. So this is the do-gooders. And so Taylor Smith, again, he is inside the playoff cut right now by a couple of points. Corey Knight, Brad Yonkman, Kyle Spees. So all a really fun team to be around. They're out there to have a good time. But, man, when they have a good time, they race well too.
Yeah, and these guys here, it doesn't matter what season or series they tend to run next year. They're going to make a name for themselves. They're 4 solid drivers that are super fun to run with. They always have a good time, just as you said. And I will tell you again, Kyle Spees, the man to me, his driving ability is pretty much unmatched in a lot of cases. He just knows how to get things done, and he'll find his way to victory lane here before long and put his name up there with Taylor, who's currently in the playoffs.
Next up, we got H2K Motorsports, and they're called H2K because they are hard to kill. And right now, we got number 88, Joseph DuPont, up there in the playoffs as far as inside the point line. Then you have Josh Witt, Justin Kruckman, and Duncan Staroska all looking for a win tonight.
Yeah, and I think right now is clutch time for these guys. I think, they're flirting with not even having a driver in the playoffs, Sean. Right now, Joseph DuPont is the guy that's in the playoffs, and he's going to have a big night tonight in order to stay there. And I think when it comes down to it, I think Joseph DuPont is the guy that can do that.
And finally, we have Jam Racing. So Mike Lewis in the number 5, Brandon Arciero in the number 3, 17, 96 of Joe Ruggles, and number 4 of Jay Graves. And again, one of those teams that has a couple of really good drivers in there, just haven't been able to find their way this season.
Yeah, they've been working super, super hard each and every week, especially the driver of the number 5. My teammate in a few weeks at the Daytona race, going to run it with none other than Mike Lewis. Been putting in all kind of work. He's doing his absolute best each and every week. And again, I've said it, I know, for the last 5-6 weeks, my pick for the Man's Best Friend Award that we'll get to in just a second, Sean.
All right, so we do this all for fun, but we do it all for money too. And so the Paints by Night Do-Gooder Safe Driver Award will get you $50 if you're the cleanest racer out there for the entire season. The Brookstone Animal Hospital Man's Best Friend Award gets you $50, plus another $25 to the charity of the winner's choice. That's just for the nicest guy out there, the guy that you just want to be around. And then the Steak Dance Team Championship, we already talked about that. That's $200, sponsored by Steak Dance Seasoning. And then our season-long grand champion is going to get $500, Brandon.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big payday for someone, and we're going to find out the 15-car field that's going to do battle for that money tonight. But as well, we do have individual race payouts, and this is what it looks like this week, the Last Chance 150 at Chicagoland Speedway. First place, not only will it give you the shot if you're not already locked in to head into the playoffs, it'll get you 65 big ones. Second place, still going to pay a smooth 35. Third place, a 25. Fourth place, 20. Fifth and sixth will bring you home 15. And seventh and eighth mean you break even. Paints by Night's going to give you $5 for the Do-Gooders Clean Race bonus if you can have a clean one, Sean. I think there are going to be some guys getting their elbows dirty tonight trying to make that cutoff.
Yes, there are. Now let's take a look and see our field right now. So we are done with qualifying. So number 1 up front, Adam Pettit. He's been up front all week in the practices. So ran a 30.580. Danny Dow just 1,000th of a second behind.
In third place, Daniel Bowdler, one of my guys for a long time here in this series and out. Fourth place, the 78, David Duke.
An independent driver, but a fantastic driver in his own right. He is up in 5th. Matthew Johnson from Flashpoint Racing in 6th.
Seventh place, Jonathan Byer. Eighth place, the guy that needs a win as bad as anyone, Mike Lipicki.
9th place, Greg Olnick from Bronco Motorsports. 10th place, Aaron Gerwitz, one of the guys looking to point his way in for Rev Racing.
11th place, Troy Dow. We'll see both Dows in the playoff. Danny's got the best of Troy so far tonight, but Devin Zimmerman will be in the 12th spot.
All right, Brandon, I think we are almost ready to go. So we are looking at the grid right now. While we have a brief second, let's thank our sponsors. So first up, CMC Fabrication. They were the winners at Talladega in the truck race this year. They created that truck. So if you have any fabrication needs, CMC Fabrication. Next up, we got Dent Wizard Smart Repairs, the leader in paintless dent repair. Then Brookstone Animal Hospital for man's best friend. Find the best doctor. That's Brookstone Animal Hospital. Griffith CPA firm, doing taxes since 1986. Paints by Night, home of some of the best paints in NASCAR. Silverback Tax Solutions. If you want the IRS monkey off your back, go to Silverback. And then finally, Steak Dance Seasoning, home of the best seasoning. Make your taste buds dance with Steak Dance.
Well, we do want to thank each and every one of you sponsors that have hung with us throughout the regular season. We're transitioning after tonight, Sean, into the playoffs. We have one more opportunity here. We'll get to it after the green flag where we make our regular season picks. But it looks like this time the Ford of Adam Pettit in the 57 machine, the Chevrolet of Danny Dow in the 21, Sean. We're about to go green flag racing at at Chicagoland Motor Speedway. The actual race tonight. Got me a little back, please.
No problem, Brandon. So the pace car will dive off. Adam Pettit has the ability to take the start, and there he goes. He takes off really, really quickly, gets out in front, and Adam Pettit will lead around 36 cars here at the Last Chance 150.
So let's get straight to it now, Sean. Now that they're green flag racing, I'm going to give you the honors of going first. Who's your pick for tonight's race?
You know, I tell you, this guy has been leading every single practice session all week long. He led for the qualifying as well. I'm going with number 57 out front, Adam Pettit.
I got a pleasure of talking to Adam Pettit a little bit earlier in the Discord. He definitely feels confident in his ability to get it done and one of the best drivers here tonight. My guy also started in the top 5, actually in the 4th position tonight. I'm choosing none other than David Duke.
Not a bad pick at all. So he is back there in 5th right now. But Adam Pettit leading us around. Danny Dow hot on his tail, but Bowdler, look out for him. He is trailing Danny Dow very, very closely.
Yeah, and I know these guys have put in so much work, and you see it starting to show. I see that Daniel's back in the 6 car. That always leads me to believe he has front end damage because of the positioning of those black boxes on the corner. But he's not going to be a driver that's going to sit back and let these guys do battle. He's going to charge up there and try to take the top spot away. That's just how Bowdler drives. And if I was a little bit better, I'd do the same thing, Sean.
Now, make no mistake, these top 3 guys, they are all in the playoffs already. They are locked in because of wins or because of points. And so really they don't need to win this race, but they're going after it anyway.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing you can do at this point. You can go out with glory out of the regular season. You want the momentum headed into the playoffs. And what better way to do it than take the checkered flag at the end of this 100 lap?
So far, a pretty clean race. I hope I don't jinx it by saying that. Now, we will pull up. We've got this special tonight. If you take a look at the track map here, so we have all the people that are on the cut line as far as the points are concerned. So you can see if they are yellow, then they are currently inside the point line. If they are orange, then they are currently outside. Oh, we got Danny Dow spinning.
Danny Dow. Not sure if there was a little bit of contact there with the 6 car, but Danny Dow, nonetheless, a beautiful, beautiful.
Definitely needed to save that car, but
actually, I do hear just over chat radio, Sean.
I think we might have lost Brandon just for a second there, so we will get him back shortly. But Adam Pettit out front. Danny Dow spinning a little bit is going to allow Adam to jump out front even further.
I think I'm back with you now, Sean. I'm not sure what happened there. Everything froze. The TV froze, maybe a glitch with my internet, I'm not sure. But I am back here and now. But I definitely did hear the contact from Daniel Bowdler coming across the radio. He did apologize to Danny Dow, letting him know, hey, bud, wasn't really trying to get into you there, and I'm sorry. But it's opened up the door now for Bowdler to charge up here and try to challenge Adam Pettit, at least for the moment.
Well, we'll get back to the track map a little bit later on as these cars get a little bit more spread out. But right now, Adam Pettit leading Daniel Bowdler just by 0.2 of a second. So not too far ahead. But this is one of those tracks, Brandon, and you already know this, that you can get out front. And if you race your line and you get away from this pack, then sometimes they can't catch you.
Yeah, and I will be honest, a lot of times it is very, very hard to catch a driver who takes off, but it's also hard to be the driver that takes off, Sean. The draft will keep you just close enough to the driver in front of you that you really, you know, it's hard to find a breakaway, honestly, and what you're doing here.
Just taking a look. So Danny Dow, after that brief spin, is all the way back in 15th position. So definitely has a lot of work to do to get right back up front.
Well, if there's one thing I know, and I know Daniel Bowdler and Danny Dow, they're very, very good friends off the racetrack. So I don't think, you know, a little bit of contact playing that much into, you know, some frustration. But the one thing you certainly don't want, Sean, is a frustrated Danny Dow behind the wheel, because that's when you see some very fast, clean, aggressive driving.
Well, right behind Danny Dow right now is Chad Wampler, who was the subject of our TR's Corner. And I just wanted to get a really quick look here. You can see he has the COVID car out there tonight. So again, he is positive for the COVID virus. But so he is kind of quarantined himself in his room. But of course, he had to put his rig in his room so that he could race this entire time. So happy to have him out there on the track, and we hope you get better soon, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. As I said pre-race, Chad, if you happen to watch this back, buddy, I will be praying for you like crazy, because I'm going to wish that or anyone, let alone one of my good friends here in MidSouth Madness. But then again, Sean, I'm friends with pretty much everyone here. I've known most of them for a long time. I've gotten to know guys over the course of the last little while, and Chad's one of the most stand-up guys out there.
Definitely. This is a great bunch of guys in this league. And just keep in mind that we will be starting up another series of leagues in January. So we're going to have a truck league, we're going to have an Xfinity league, and we're going to have a cup league as well. And so anybody with any type of iRacing experience can jump in and they can play with these guys and really get out there. And there will be money involved in all three of those leagues. So it'll be for fun, but it'll also be for a little bit of cash.
Yeah, and I'm challenging absolutely everyone out there right now. If you're not a part of this league, I challenge you to come in and beat some of these guys. If you can beat them all, I encourage you to do it because I just don't see it happening. These guys are top-notch, stand-up, great group of guys from top to bottom.
Now, Adam Pettit has jumped out just a little bit further, just to a quarter of a second. So Daniel Bowdler is not letting him get too far away. Now, I was told a little bit earlier today that Daniel Bowdler actually wouldn't be here, so it's almost surprising that he's here. But here he is up in second place. Does that shock anyone at all?
No, and that's what I was just getting ready to say, Sean. Not only is it, a surprise that he's here, but it's a surprise after not really preparing all day for this race for Daniel Bowdler to be running in second because, it takes a lot of practice and preparation for these races, but just as you see in real life sports, Sean, you still have to get in race mode. You have to mentally prepare for 100 laps with some of the best iRacing has to offer here, doing battle for the last shot at the playoffs.
And you see David Duke going down to the inside, and he will take that position away from Daniel Bowdler. So here comes your pick, Brandon.
Yeah, and I've looked up and down all around the standings. Oh, we have a caution.
It's not a caution just yet, actually. They're just on the infield. We will see if the caution flag comes out as they get back out onto the track. So that's Travis Trevelyan from Stryker Motorsports and Derek De Silva of Tank Racing. So it looks like no caution. They will get right back to racing. So kind of surprised there wasn't a caution there.
Yeah, I'm guessing they got down and out of the way rather quickly. But as I was saying, I've looked up and down the standings here, Sean, and I was searching for my pick, and I looked down and I saw David Duke, and I was, man, he hasn't really had that good of a season. I looked back up and I saw David Duke, and I was, man, he hasn't had that. I couldn't get away from David Duke for some reason. I felt like this is David Duke's season on the line right now. He's from Tennessee. That's when you clutch up most, is when you come from Tennessee. So now is the opportunity for David Duke to do just that. Long time in the NASCAR world, from early in his life till even now, racing and iRacing, and he's racing for it all here tonight, Sean.
He is definitely going for it, and you can see right now Adam is he's just barely out front, only 0.3 of a second, so this is nothing that Duke can't handle. He's got 83 more laps to handle it.
Yeah, and I know, I spoke again with David Duke earlier in the day, and he was saying, hey, we're 19 points out. And I told him, I said, if anybody can come back in one race from a 19-point deficit, it's you. I said, you just have to race clean. But I don't expect them to just race clean. I expect them to go up here and win this thing tonight, Sean. I think David Duke has what it takes. And if there's anybody out here that's going to make sure that doesn't happen, it's your pick, Adam Pettit, who's out in the front right now in the 57 car.
Right now, he is absolutely driving away, so half a second now. So it was just 0.3 of a second. Now it's half a second. And so if he keeps on pulling away like this, now Adam Pettit, I'll tell you, is one of those guys that is just downright consistent. He will sit here on the track for hours and hours and hours trying to race the same exact line every single time.
And that's really all it takes. A lot of times when you run in iRacing and even in real life, when you hop behind the wheel of a race car, the thing that trumps everything else, Sean, is just being consistent, running the same. It's easy to run a fast lap, but it takes a lot of talent and determination, hard work. All of those things go into running consistent fast laps. And much of the day, I kept an eye on the Discord. And as I said, I even hopped in for a little while, kind of fooling around with my mouse and keyboard trying to run laps here at Chicagoland, and even while I was doing that, Adam Pettit, just as you said, working hard on the race line, trying to get faster, trying to be more consistent. And realistically now, as he closes in on a 1 second lead, he's been consistent across the board here tonight.
Now, once again, we will pull up that track map to show you where everybody is. Based on these are the guys that are trying to point their way in, and so obviously number 78 out there out front, that is David Duke, and so he's leading the way, trying to point his way into the playoffs or trying to win his way into the playoffs. But you can see all the way in the very back, that number 24 car, that is Taylor Smith, who was right there on the cut line, about 2 points above the cut line, so he is going to have to get on his horse quickly.
Yeah, and that's the one car that I was about to point out as well, because he was just inside the points, and even right now about middle of the way down through the field there, Sean, headed into turn number 3 now and 4. You see the 39 car, the teammate of Daniel Bowdler, Stan Hausman, who's much very well in the same position, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, is it Sean Dice or is it Aaron Gerwitz that he's racing with for that last spot?
It is so Sean Dice is just below the cut line, and so about 6 points out. And so Sean Dice, fantastic driver. He is one of those that I would not surprise me at all to see him up at the front towards the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting ready to say. For the 24, for the 39, those are things that they have to realize is, they're 2 points in coming in, but right now David Duke, who was 19 points out, is second place. And then you have Sean Dice, which, as you said, was only 6 points out. And if I'm not mistaken, he is ahead of both of those, the 29 and the 39. We'll check this time. Yes, he is going to be slightly ahead of all of them right now. So one big thing that that's actually going to be Aaron Gerwitz there that we're riding along with. But, one thing that you have to remember is you're going to have to, outpoint these guys.
And here's Sean Dice back here in the back. So he's in 28th position right now, about 14 seconds behind the leader as it sits. But really, I think he's just looking for a clean race today. If he just goes clean, then a lot of these guys are going to knock themselves out.
Yeah, and I actually, again, got those guys backwards, I'm pretty sure, Sean. I think you said it was Gerwitz who's out. Dice is in, correct? Or do I have that backwards?
Dice is in. So Dice is out. So,
okay.
Dice is the one that's really working to get in there. Gerwitz has about a 24-point lead on the cut. So Gerwitz pretty much, I'm not going to say he's all the way in, but he's pretty close.
Yeah, he's almost broken in. I thought I had them backwards. I wasn't sure. I mean, they're just so daggone good over there at Rev Racing. I get them all confused. Adam Pettit obviously in the lead, and you can never tell. Adam Pettit, Brandon Key, Aaron Gerwitz, Sean Dice, any of those guys, they're all so good. Did I just get them mixed up?
Hey, man, it's okay. Not a problem. But the guy that's up front from Rev Racing, Adam Pettit, he is so far out front, a second and a half now. So he is just putting it to this entire field. The one thing that he is hoping for is green flag the entire way, because it doesn't look like anybody's going to catch him on this stint.
No, and that's where it gets scary. If it stays green flag, these guys aren't going to make that many pit stops, which means not that many opportunities to make a mistake, Sean. So that's what really starts to get scary.
Now, just kind of going down the list a little bit here, I'll tell you, Matthew Johnson, who is currently in the cut line, number 62 here, in that red and black car, he is up there in 6th. Now his teammates, Jonathan Byer and Marshall Stanley, but no!
You've caught it live!
That was Mike Lipicki.
Woo! Beautiful save.
And that will bring out a yellow flag. We will go back and we will check out what just happened there with a wreck replay by Dent Wizard.
I think that was a whole lot of guys coming up quick on Mike Lipicki, who wasn't quite as quick, maybe come down just a hair across the nose of Dean Brummett, but Dent Wizard, as always, takes us live through it here. Yeah, you see it look almost maybe, Sean, I want to watch it at least one more time. I wonder if the 62 didn't give a shove to the 25, got him loose, and he got in. Any shove's going to come in here, but you can see just a hair there. The car bobbled just a bit. Dean lost a little bit of traction there, got up into Mike Lipicki, but he kept it off of everything and everyone.
We'll check it one more time from a different angle. and you will see Dean Brummett down there on the bottom of the track, and it looks like Mike Lepicki just kind of came down.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of a bobble there out of the rear end of the 25, which washed him up about, I would say, about a quarter of a line. And then Mike also trying to take that same real estate, so just ran out of room.
And now the pit stops because they've been out there for about 28 laps. Everybody needs new tires, so everybody getting down into pit lane. And there goes the lead for Adam Pettit.
Yeah, and that's what you hate to see. Just when you walk away, when you finally get broken away, they reel you back in, Sean. That's when it becomes tough, because Adam Pettit looking to walk away with this race here tonight, and unfortunately, due to a caution, it's not going to be the case. But here comes David Duke. Close race off of pit road that time. And if I'm not mistaken, Dean Brummett going to gain a few spots.
And it looks like we got a couple people that may have stayed out. We will check in on that. So looks like Aaron Gerwitz, Stan Hausman both may have stayed out on the track.
Not really sure the call there, unless they plan to come down late, maybe a congestion on pit road, maybe come down this time, but not really sure of the strategy there, because there's going to be a pretty crazy difference in their time, Sean.
So we've got those two, and of course there's Trevelyan. He's just waiting to get his lap back, and yes, here they come down pit road. So they will just take those late pit stops, and so Adam Pettit will resume having the lead there. So, and it could have been one of those things where Aaron Gerwitz just wanted a point for leading a lap.
Yeah, and that very well could have been the case. I know a lot of times drivers don't feel as safe coming down a congested pit lane. I know in one playoff series that I was running in another league of mine, we come down pit road, and to my surprise, sometimes iRacing, especially, I will say here at Chicagoland, sometimes the cars do not go invisible on pit road. You cannot always drive through the cars. Apparently, after doing some research, that has been an issue at Chicagoland in a certain number of oval cars where, Sean, you know, as you're familiar with, and anyone with experience on the iRacing, once you put all four tires in your box, your car then becomes invisible on pit road. Guys can drive through you. It's not always the case here at Chicagoland, so maybe a smart move for those two drivers.
Yeah, but that is definitely going to shuffle them back in the pack. Aaron Gerwitz, who started off in 10th position tonight, he is all the way back right now in 33rd position.
That's going to be a drive, but if there's anyone that can make the drive, it's the 09 of Aaron Gerwitz. We are still under caution now, Sean. I want to take a moment. Currently 22 guys hanging with us, so let's fire up the chat a little bit, get some chats out here. We can talk about what you guys feel is going to happen, or, you know, your picks for the race as well. While you're here, smash the like button. We're going to try and get as many likes as possible here tonight for these guys doing battle in Mid-South Madness. And, of course, as always, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Sean and I bringing you the best action iRacing has to offer on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, currently on the schedule. So feel free to drop the subscription to make sure you know when we go live with any of Speed Racing Network's broadcasts.
And keep in mind, again, next season we are going to have a Wednesday night truck league that will not be broadcast. We'll have a Thursday night Xfinity league. We'll have a Friday night Open Cup series, and then we'll have a Fixed Cup series on Sunday night. So we will have 3 broadcasts, the Xfinity, the Open Cup, and the Fixed Cup that we will be running next season. So can't wait to do that, Brandon.
Oh, yeah, I'm super excited about each and every one of those series because, you know, right now, Sean, we'll get back to that in just one moment because the cars are coming through turn 3 and 4 to go back to green flag racing, and I don't want to miss a minute of the action. This time the pace car is going to wait and pull off to the safety of pit road. It's now up to Adam Pettit, and he's gone right off the rip. We're back green flag racing, and he kind of left him in the dust there on that restart.
And that's the advantage of the leader. You can go anytime after that pace car drops off, and if they can get a good jump just like Adam Pettit did, then it gives you a massive advantage.
Yeah, and to jump back real quick, Sean, to your point, here in Mid-South Madness now, we have so many great drivers across the board. when you look at, the opportunity to open up also a truck league, an open cup league, and a fixed cup league, what comes to mind is David Duke. He's very fast in the truck series. Now, I'm not saying for sure David Duke won't run the truck series, but for example, David Duke, a very, very fast truck series driver. Justin Boyles, a very, very successful open series setup driver. So, opportunities across the board. I myself prefer a cup series. I'm not good at setting up setups, so I prefer a fixed set. Same, to each its own. These guys will then be able to choose what they feel is most satisfying or will be most successful for them, Sean.
Well, make no mistake, Speed Racing Network is definitely growing, and we are looking for drivers to fill those leagues. So anybody that is interested in that, get in contact with myself or Jason Tripp, and we will talk you through the whole thing. We will get you into those leagues. It is going to be a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, and if you're any of my guys and you don't really have contact with Jason Tripp or Sean Griffith, send me a message. I'll shoot you over in the direction of Sean Griffith or Jason Tripp. Both of them will get you taken care of. If Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Sunday you don't have anything going on, come hang out with the guys of MidSouth Madness. It's going to be a show. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we always have an opportunity to win some cash in some of these leagues.
If you take a look, we got Adam Pettit about 3/4 of a second ahead, and then everybody else bunched up behind him, and he's got to be loving that.
Yeah, and especially the race right now for, second, third place, Dean Brummett, Daniel Bowdler, and David Duke. The more that they race, the smaller out their windshield does that 57 car get. But the one car that I see marching up through the field in a must-win situation right now, Sean, the 00 of Marshall Stanley has come to life, and he's making passes, making moves, and coming for his good friend, Adam Pettit.
Yes, and they were typical teammates in other series. But in this series, you can only have 4 members on your team, and so Marshall Stanley joined up with Flashpoint Racing, and so now they are competitors. Good friends, of course, but competitors. But Marshall Stanley, on his way, he is in 5th, and he is looking to take that 4th position away from David Duke.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to say here. If you're Adam Pettit, I know he's a really humble person. He doesn't think about it too much, but, that got a little close between 2 teammates there, Marshall Stanley, and still getting a little dicey as Jake Roell's going to get into the back of Matt Johnson there in the 62. But if there's anybody you worry about, Sean, more than anything, if you can beat, Bowdler, Brummett, Duke, if you can beat those guys, the guys that you have to worry about are the guys you race with most. When you know the capability of such as Marshall Stanley, Aaron Gerwitz, Sean Dice, that's when you start worrying. At least that was my experience. If I was up there and, myself and Daniel Bowdler teammates in a certain aspect of MidSouth Madness, even when we weren't, but, if I was running good and I seen any car coming up behind me that I don't typically race with, it wasn't that big of a deal to me because I don't know the ins and outs of it. But when I seen Daniel Bowdler, David Duke, Danny Dow, the guys that I race with most, that I know how fast they are everywhere, that's what worried me more than anything. So I wonder if it's the same for Adam Pettit as these guys that he races with most starts. Oh, actually, we do have a new leader out front, Sean.
Well, we apologize that we missed that, but Adam Pettit just got passed by Daniel Bowdler, so something must have happened to Adam Pettit because he was way out front.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if he wasn't a little bit tight there. Not seeing any damage to the car, but as I was saying, when your good friends that you run with the most start catching up to you, that's when you start worrying, in my opinion, because that's the guys that when it comes down to it. Hey, in 3 and 4, I know for a fact Bowdler's better than me. He's catching me in 3 and 4. It's a whole lot different than when you just look in your mirror and you see, Dean's back there. I don't know how Dean drives. I'm just going to do everything I can to stay ahead of him.
Well, we always say that cream rises to the top, and if you look, Brandon, 7 of the top 10 right now are all winners already. They're already pointed in, or they've won their way into the playoffs. So 7 of the top 10 are already in the playoffs. That just shows how good these guys have been.
Yeah, and that's that's going to play major for some of these points races because let's say David Duke finds his way out front, or even we'll say David Duke finds his way to second, Sean. All of these guys that are in green, right, that are racing, that are already pointed in, their points don't matter to David Duke. But they're taking up positions behind David Duke at that point. Now, of course, he's not in second now, but if he finds his way to second, they're taking up positions, meaning it's opening up the opportunity for David Duke to gain the points on those guys, to catch up to them, where right now he's 19 points out. And 19 was, it seems like a big number, but realistically, with all of these drivers that are locked in, running up ahead of some of the guys that David Duke is racing with, it's going to be big for the playoff race here at the end.
I'm just going down through the standings. So Dean Brummett has moved into second place, passing Adam Pettit as well. And so Dean Brummett from Stryker Motorsports is on the move. He's already got 2 wins on the season. He wants a 3rd.
Yeah, and honestly, I just saw the standings scroll by, and it seems as if, all of the Stryker Motorsports guys starting to come through the field. So if you're Stake Dance Racing or anyone else for that matter, you should be concerned about Stryker because they're on their game yet again at Chicagoland.
Dean's teammate back in 8th position as JPL in the 9 car. And so he is trailing Matthew Johnson right now. He wants to go up towards the front again as well.
I think just a couple cars behind him, they find the 3rd Stryker car, Jacob Smith as well, just getting past Danny Dow, 4 positions. So that's actually going to be the 10th position. Now 3 Stryker Motorsports cars within the top 10, Chuck.
But out front right now, Stake Dance Racing. And we heard from one of their team members today in TR's Corner with Chad Wampler. And once again, we wish him very, very well. I hope your recovery from COVID is extremely fast. But, man, there's no better way to spend your COVID days in quarantine than to have your rig in your room and to get on iRacing every day.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I know, any day that I can play, whether you consider it a video game or not, the video games of any aspect are a good day, especially when you're not feeling well and, things couldn't get worse as they seem. You have the opportunity to play some video games, maybe hop on the iRacing simulator and have some fun. It always makes for a bad day to be a little bit better. So, again, we do wish the best for Chad Wampler in the 812. Obviously, Sean, it's got to feel pretty good seeing a teammate out front.
And pulling back up that track map, it looks like all these guys are still pretty much jumbled up. So everybody still has a shot that is inside that points realm. Everybody still kind of has a shot to move up here, but if you can see that 78 up at the front, that is exactly where he needs to be. He needs to be far ahead of all these other guys for the points because David Duke has some ground to make up.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I know we're closing in on halfway, and we haven't been able to catch up with anyone interview-wise, Sean, but I'm starting to get nervous for the driver of that number 78 because just as the guys he's racing around right now, anything can happen here, of course, but right now he's doing exactly what he needs to do to close that 19-point gap. Even though he's not leading this thing, it's going to be close, and I'm nervous for the driver of that 78. But out front, Adam Pettit. Maybe he just got tired, Sean. Maybe he got bored of leading so much. He just wanted to run these guys back down because just like that, he's back on the back bumper of the 6 car.
And just like that, he passed Dean Brummett. And so really, again, not sure what happened to get him out of the lead, but he wants it back, and he is going to go after Bowdler for that. Now, they are about to catch up to some lap traffic, and so it looks like that's Mike Lewis in front of them. So they have to be really cautious not to get any damage from lap traffic here.
Yeah, that's so hard to do when you get a good run and you run up on a car that's a little bit slower than you. It's hard to navigate around him. And catching him at the right time is going to be important because if they both catch him at the wrong time, if they have to lift out of the throttle for a second, it's going to allow 3rd place to charge right back in the way.
And Mike Lewis does the classy thing, gets way up out of the line, gets out of the way. And that's kind of what you're supposed to do when you're a couple laps down, which is where he is right now. So Mike Lewis, again, classy driver, just trying to stay out of the way.
Yeah, and honestly, as I said, sometimes, I don't know how the expression goes, sometimes you have a good night, sometimes you have a bad night. Tonight, I just caught it. Sometimes you're the fly, Sean, sometimes you're the windshield. And when you're the windshield, it's easy to, like Bowdler. Right now, Bowdler's the windshield. Mike Lewis was the fly. He just pulled over. He said, hey, you know what? I'm having a bad night. Go ahead and take this thing. I'm not going to slow you down. And very, very classy move for all of these guys that just continue to not affect the racing up front and just slide over when the cars get to them.
And now Adam Pettit taking the lead away from Daniel Bowdler. Now, I'll tell you, I've talked to Adam Pettit a lot over this season. He's become a really, really good friend and somebody that I talk to, especially about computers. He's a computer genius. And so I was talking to him, and I asked him when he pointed his way in, I was like, okay, so what are you going to do now? He said, I want the win. He's disappointed in himself that there has not been a win all season long. And so he is definitely going to go for it.
Yeah, and I remember a few months ago, regular season, or before regular season started, late in a restart, I found, myself running second to Chad Wampler, and the fastest guy all night at Texas had been Adam Pettit, or actually it was at Charlotte. Adam Pettit had been the fastest all night long, and he was 5, 6, 7 rows back. He was deep in the field. We had about 10 laps to go, and I was talking to Chad Wampler, and we had decided, hey, we're going to settle this between us. And about 3 laps later, I looked up, and the 57 was in my rearview mirror. And a turn later, he was done driving off into the sunset. So, super, super great driver. And when he learns a track like he's learned Chicagoland, when he has the rhythm down, he's the most dangerous guy on the racetrack.
Man, he was just back in 3rd place. Now, not only is he in 1st place, but by half a second. So, by far, he has been the best car on the track tonight.
Yeah, and honestly, for the playoffs coming up, they better hope, they being the rest of the competition, the other 14 guys involved, better hope that Adam Pettit doesn't have this type of, smooth sailing, so to speak, Sean, each and every week. If he does, it's going to be close to impossible to knock off this 57 car with the performance he's put on tonight.
Well, the way these playoffs are set up, they are all 1.5 or 2 mile oval tracks. And I'll tell you, there are 3 or 4 experts at those out there, and Adam Pettit is one of them.
Yeah, and honestly, you see week in and week out, he's always fast. Things don't always go his way, but he never gives up. He continues to try, and he grinds away at it. And it's really starting to show now because we're getting into the latter part of the season where work ethics and things like that, determination, continuing to try as hard as you did at Daytona are coming through now at this point in the season. It's been a long season, Sean. But now is when it starts to show just how hard you worked, how much you prepared, and just how much you've put in to continue to run this strong.
Well, again, you just never know what's happening out there on the track because, here we are, we're looking at Adam Pettit leading this race. And then we had Jake Roel that was up in about 5th place. Now, for some reason, Jake Roel is back in. And that could be the reason right there. We found a little wreck. And so that's AJ Pritchett, and it looks like Jacob Smith in the 15 car for Stryker Motorsports. So got a wreck out there. We do have a caution.
Also saw Kyle Spees involved, I do believe.
I think I saw Sean Dice as well, so not good for Sean Dice. We will go back and check it out. So we will get another wreck replay by Dent Wizard.
See here just what went wrong for the drivers of those vehicles here tonight.
Just they got 3 wide. Oh, and then it looks like Roel just got into the back of Kyle Spees, and that started turning everybody. So we will go back and check that out once again.
Yeah, not sure really what happened there. And that one actually looked a little bit rough there, Sean.
Well, you got Spees and Roel driving side by side, both of them going for the pass on Jacob Smith. And it looks like that Jake was just trying to get out of Jacob Smith's way and just kind of came down into him a little bit. So let's check that out from another angle and possibly see if maybe we can see something a little bit different. So yeah, I'm not sure if Jake got loose there or if he thought he was clear, something. But definitely a bad accident there. Just to let you know, we said that Sean Dice went off the track as well, and you will watch him as he goes down into the infield to get away from this wreck. So you see the wreck happening right in front of him, and he dives down to the infield to get away from that wreck. So his car is just fine, just trying to stay out of trouble there. So AJ Pritchett also involved in this wreck, and we will see that as well. And so the cars will start jumbling up in front of him, and then he just has nowhere to go. Gets into Kyle Spees, and he goes spinning as well. So lots of action out there, Brandon, and not really what you want to see at this point. All right, so back out here on the track. So let's go back up front. So Adam Pettit still leading the way. And we will see if anybody decides. Actually, everybody got into the pits. Everybody's back out of the pits while we were watching that entire thing happen. So let's see if we can't get Adam Pettit into the booth here really quick just to see what he's thinking. Hey, Adam, Sean up in the booth. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, John? How you doing, bud?
Man, it is good. You are out there. You're doing some work out there. What is it looking like to you?
I'm just in safe mode, honestly. Just save the tires and get around here and hopefully have something at the end.
All right, man. Well, what about your teammates? I know, that wreck right there, I know Sean Dice had to dive down to the infield to avoid that thing. So I know he's on the cut line. What are you telling your teammates here? I'm
just kind of giving them feedback as far as what I'm doing, how hard I'm pushing when I'm braking. But obviously they're kind of in the back. They don't have the luxury, unfortunately, that I do. So they got to push it a little bit more. But they're just trying to keep their nose clean, and we're all trying to work to get Sean into the playoffs here.
All right, now we saw you up front, and then we saw you kind of drop back to third there. Did you hit a wall or something? What happened there?
No, I just went into save mode. I was just go ahead and let him go by, because as you saw, I was able to get back around him in about 5-10 laps. So I'm not going to push my tires, not going to cook them, just going to save them and have some at the end, hopefully.
Well, man, that sounds good.
I've got to ask you real quick. You and I talked earlier about the keyboard and mouse thing. Can we expect the race coming with Adam Pettit just keyboard and mouse?
I don't see that. I just spent way too much time building a brand new rig, so I'm not going to undo it. I may jump into a practice race with you or something to do that, but I doubt you'll see an MSM race with that.
I'm counting on it at this point, man. I'd like both of us to run with the mouse and keyboard and see what happens.
Let's do it, man. Reach out to me.
All right, man. I certainly will. Good luck tonight.
All right, buddy. We'll drop you back down into your team. Have a great race.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Brandon.
No problem, man. Good luck.
All right, Brandon. So here we go. 40 laps to go. What are you expecting?
More of the same. I think, you heard a very confident driver behind the wheel of that 57 machine. And honestly, he said he wants to win. And tonight he's proven that he has exactly the machine underneath him to go get the win. We know the driver behind the wheel can do it. Honestly, I think you made the solid pick. I think David Duke continues to have it. But, it's going to be tough to beat that 57 machine. Well,
and so if Pettit does win this race, that takes away the opportunity for someone else that could have gotten the win to jump up in there. But it really doesn't hurt the standings too bad since he had already pointed his way in anyway. So not a bad thing.
Yeah, and that's really what you have to count on. We're back green flag racing here. Adam Pettit doing more of the same. If you're his teammates, Sean Dice, Aaron Gerwitz, you want your teammate now more than ever to win this race because you don't want a guy not in the playoffs to reach up there and steal one, Sean. You want your guy in-house to lock it up. Or, even right now, the front three, Dean Brummett, Daniel Bowdler, both already locked into the playoffs. You want any of those guys are the ones you're pulling for if you're close to the cut line. But if you look back in fourth and fifth, there are two hungry drivers who pretty much need a win. David Duke obviously can point his way in, but he and Marshall Stanley looking for a win will lock them in and knock someone out of the playoff.
Oh, and it looks like Chad Wampler in the 812. Let's go back and find out what happened there.
His night going solid, going quiet, and obviously finding a little bit of trouble here. Dent Wizard, as always, will bring us the wreck replay here. We'll see just what happened to the 812 with Chad Wampler and the other cars involved. And it looks like we're going to catch this replay a little bit late. We're going to back it up a little bit. So looks like he and Gerwitz in the 09. Looks like Gerwitz may have been floating up the track a little bit, or Chad Wampler trying to go down the track a little bit. So they get involved, and then I believe
Not really sure exactly. I want to say that was Kruckman. Yes, that's Kruckman that involved in that wreck as well. So got a little bit of damage going on out there. And again, all these guys all needing a win.
Yeah, and I think there was another H2K car. It looked like they're underneath Kruppman getting involved. I'm not sure. Maybe Danny Stenser, maybe.
It may have been Josh Witt.
Josh Witt, I believe, going to find some damage out of this one too. Right soon.
Yep,
right
there it is. And so a couple H2K guys that, man, we really expected a ton out of them this year. It just hasn't really happened. I will tell you that their leader right now that is out there, that's Joseph DuPont. He is up in 17th as it sits, and so he is currently pointed his way in, but he needs to be careful as well.
And I will say, going back and, all the way back to Daytona, I ran with these guys, and I thought more of the same, Sean. I saw Brad Yoinkman. I know he's on do-gooders, but I saw, Josh Witt, Justin Kruckman, some of those guys at Daytona, and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, they're going to have a solid season this year. But really, the restrictor plates had been the highlight of the season for those guys that I know have the talent to be up here racing with some of the best. And, hasn't really been what they wanted, but I think next year they come back better than ever. The more they learn, the more they continue to do here, shows to be huge for how they've been running.
Yeah, it's going to be a really different season next season. I really think that with a little bit new competition, that sort of thing, that will really help H2K go up the standings a little bit.
Yeah, and you better watch out for them if now rumor has it there's a road course league floating around and some talks with some of these guys, and if so, you better watch out for Joseph DuPont because he's one of the best road racers I know, alongside that car you see right now, I think in the 5th position, Marshall Stanley. So great road racers in their own right. We saw Marshall Stanley, both Joseph DuPont, solid in MidSouth Madness amongst the road course track. Same with the guy on your screen right now, Thomas Rutherford, a very, very well road course racer.
And Thomas Rutherford, we call him the Iceman. He is just always there in position. And so all he needs is just a little bit of luck, and that really just puts him up in that top spot. So he's not one that leads a lot of laps, but he is definitely one that wins a lot of races because he is always there in that 2nd to 10th position right there at the end of the race, and he takes advantage of people's weaknesses.
Yeah, and that's one thing you have to worry about when it comes to Thomas Rutherford. If he's not the fastest guy on the track, that's when it's really scary because he's going to point you to death over the course of a season. I know, sometimes he's fast, sometimes he's middle of the pack, but he's always maximizing the points around him. A lot of these guys that are in the playoffs by points should be glad that Thomas Rutherford did not run this whole season, Sean, because if there's anyone great at maximizing points, it's the driver of the 44 car.
Well, I'm just taking a look down the standings here. So Devin Zimmerman up here in 9th position, having himself a good race. He is pointed in currently. He can lose that position, but he's having a great race right now. Nothing wrong with that. David Duke up here in 4th place, doing everything possible to point his way in. And while we have a chance, Brandon, let's jump back really quickly and take a look at those standings. And you can see David Duke, 19 points outside the cut right now, so he desperately needs a great race tonight.
Well, I will tell you right now, I know they're getting ready to go green while this is on the screen. If you look at the guys ahead of him, Lepicki behind him, Justin Boyles not here, Sean Dice behind him, Stan Houseman behind him, Taylor Smith behind him, Joseph DuPont behind him. So right now, he could make this happen, Sean. He may have an opportunity if he can just finish in the top 5. If some of these other guys don't get a little bit quicker, gain a few more positions.
I'll tell you, a couple of the guys that we're looking at here, we are looking at Taylor Smith back here in 20th position. He is just 2 points ahead of the cut line. And then the guy that is on the cut line itself, I'm looking for his name right now, and I cannot find it anywhere. It is in 17th, Stan Houseman.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to do, some quick math here. 19 positions, 5th back to 17th. Going to be close. Stan Houseman has to go forward here, Sean. He cannot afford to go backwards because 19 positions is the difference between David Duke right now and Stan Houseman. And currently, Duke's in 5th. He's in 17th. That's 12. So it's going to be so close. David Duke with an opportunity to move forward. If the 39 starts to slide back, he could very well make that cut, Sean.
Yes, he could, absolutely. And so just watch out for Duke towards the end of this race. He's one of those, again, that just kind of stays up front, and then all of a sudden he's in the lead. So watch out for that. But also look at Marshall Stanley up there in 4th position now. He is making his way towards the front, passing his good buddy, Adam Pettit.
I'm just watching for one name here, and I'm not sure. I didn't see exactly what position he was in. Let me check the standings. So David Duke still in 5th. Taylor Smith in 21st, Sean. So about 5 positions backwards for Stan Houseman, or 5 positions back for Taylor Smith. And David Duke just steals that position right now.
So really, really interesting race out here. The other person that we need to watch really closely is Sean Dice. So Sean Dice up in 19th position. He was only 6 points outside of the cut. So if he is 6 positions better than either one of those that you talked about there, Taylor Smith or Stan Houseman, then there's a possibility of him jumping in as well. So we definitely have some stuff to figure out here in the next 31 laps.
Yeah, and it's starting to get crazy for me. I'm not even driving one of these machines tonight, Sean, and I'm starting to get a little bit nervous about what's going on for these guys, because literally anything can happen. And one wrong move, just one little bit of contact, can change it all for some of these drivers on the cut line here at Chicagoland.
Well, the biggest mover on the night so far is Joseph DuPont back here in 18th position. That doesn't sound like it's that great, but he started off in 35th.
Yeah, and I think that's got to worry you if you're Stan Houseman, because you've got Mike Lepicki, Joseph DuPont, Matt Johnson all behind you that you know have been fast here tonight. You know, Joseph DuPont, as you said, most positions forward. Mike Lepicki was much further up front earlier, and Matt Johnson was actually in the top 5, I think, to start this race, or just outside of the top 5. So any of these guys back here start making some passes, and it gets very, very close on the cut line for guys like Stan Houseman, you know, Taylor Smith. Joseph DuPont, though, doing everything he can to make sure that 88 car will be racing for his life next week in Mid-South Madness. So it's starting to get a little hairy.
So, but up front, Daniel Bowdler taking that lead, and so Adam Pettit said that he's going to save his tires. He's not going to burn them up or anything like that. He is sitting back in 4th, allowing Daniel Bowdler, Dean Brummett, and Marshall Stanley to pass him.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to keep the math as quick as I can in my head, Sean, firing off, just wondering what's going to happen here, because a lot of these guys, you know, racing for their lives, but, you know, not the case for Daniel Bowdler, Dean Brummett, Adam Pettit, some of the guys up here at the front that we know we will see next week. And it's starting to get crazy here with just under 30 laps to go, where anything can, and I'm sure will, happen here before it's all said and done.
And we will try very, very hard to get everybody those results as quickly as possible after the race. Not sure we're going to be able to get it in on the broadcast. We will try desperately to do that. So if those standings get up there while we're doing interviews, then we'll be able to announce that. But we'll just have to see how quickly that comes down.
Yeah, and usually the admins here, Jason Tripp and a couple other guys, are quick to get it uploaded. So maybe something that I can update to the final position will be right at the end of the broadcast. So we'll hang tough for the final 26, 25 laps here as we go. But unfortunately, the one thing that I see back a few spots right now in the 6th position, 7th position actually, and under fire losing 8th, David Duke not having what he needs to happen right now, because he's continuing to lose a few spots here, and he desperately needs to gain rather than lose.
And maybe he's just trying to play the long game here, because you know, everybody pitted on lap 57. Not sure exactly what the fuel load is here. Typically, it's somewhere between 36 to 45, you know, laps, something like that. So this could be a move where he's just trying to save fuel and tires.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I just don't see them being able to go to the end here. I know it will be close, but I don't know that it'll be close enough to matter here. I think we will see everyone make one more pit stop. You know, if we get a green-white checkered and these guys come down and say, hey, I'm going to get some tires, maybe you see someone such as David Duke or some of these guys back 5th through 10th try to take only 2 tires to even out what the faster cars are doing, have a shot at it right now. I will say, just from what I'm seeing, though, it looks like Stan Houseman has improved his position a few. As far as Taylor Smith goes, he's actually fallen. So right now, if you're David Duke, you need desperately to get back to 5th, maybe 4th, because you have a shot at life here. And I think you said it was Sean Dice, correct? That was 6 points out?
That's correct. He's up in 22nd place right now.
So what he needs to do with Taylor Smith behind him, Taylor Smith's about to lose another spot, so it's about to be a 4-point difference for those guys on the cut line. If Sean Dice can pick up about 4 more positions, then he will currently hold that spot. But right now it still goes to Taylor and the man telling him, Stan Houseman.
And now up front, Daniel Bowler is under fire right now from Dean Brummett. Dean wants that lead, and I'm not sure that Daniel's going to be able to hold him off too much longer.
Yeah, and I don't know either. I mean, it's just one of those things where he saved the tires. He's coming now. You know, he obviously I don't.
Bowler into the wall.
That's certainly not going to help. I know Dean is solid at saving tires, so he's going to have to go for it. Sounds like Bowler maybe just pushed the car a hair too hard, but Sean, look at the car peeking inside for 3rd place right now. Just as we run, Marshall Stanley, if he wins this race, he will spoil the run for Taylor, for Stan, for David Duke, for Sean Dice. One of those positions won't make it no matter what, because Marshall Stanley wins and he's in, and that's where it gets scary.
Now, Adam Pettit has passed Marshall Stanley for 3rd place out there on the track. And so Adam Pettit, just like he said in his interview, he has good control over this car. He knows he can catch up within 6 or 7 laps if he needs to. So he is just biding his time, it looks like.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the guys out front, Adam's starting to set sail. He saw Bowler getting to the wall a little bit, and I think now he's going to start pushing the issues.
So he is going to be catching Bowler here very shortly. He's going to dive down to the inside and try to take that 2nd position, and he will take that 2nd position. And so now he is not that far away from 1st place.
Yeah, and I think if you're Dean Brummett, you better kick it into gear, give it all it's got, because as Adam Pettit continues to tick away spots, time's running out. You know, this might be the set of tires that you go to the end on, and if so, you better be worried, because you know Adam's taking care of his.
And we are just checking through the track here. But yeah, Adam Pettit within half a second of Dean Brummett, so we will check back in on that in just a second. Going back just a little ways, let's go back to David Duke. He has moved his way up back into 6th place, and so now he is going after Brandon Key, who is also on Team Rev Racing. And so David really desperately needs these spots, because Stan Houseman back here in 11th place, so not too far away. So David Duke's got to make something happen right now.
Yeah, man, I just continue to watch the standings, and you know, David Duke right now 6th place. If he can get past Brandon Key, that's 5th place. It's the 21-point difference between him and Taylor Smith, who currently I think is back
22nd place right now.
22nd. So man, it's going to be close. Stan Houseman has actually gained a few, it looks like. So he's actually up to 11th. He was much further back than that. So I think the battle's going to be for Taylor's spot currently with David Duke. It's getting close, and they're almost out of laps.
17 laps to go here as Dean Brummett takes to the start-finish line. But here comes Adam Pettit. He has cut that lead down to 0.15 seconds.
Yeah, and I think if you're Dean Brummett, you're just looking in the mirror and you're like, man, there's nothing I can do. I'm just driving the car for what the tires have left in them, because you know Adam, at any point he peeks that nose inside, Sean, that's it. You know, you've got to try to keep your car on the bottom, not give Adam the look. And right there you see off of turn 4, Adam realistically could have taken the look and did not. Just being patient with the race car, said he knows he has control. At any point, he can stuff it down in there and make Dean lift. He's so confident in that 57 car right now that he hasn't pushed the issue, and even now peeking inside just did it so easily, Sean, that I think it's just about done if it stays green. I think the 57 will just drive off into the sunset.
Man, he just passed that car like it was standing still, and so he will go back to lead. Adam Pettit in the 57 car will take that lead back. I'm just looking out there on the track. There's a few guys that are jumping into the pits a little bit early, trying to get those fresh tires, maybe a little bit of fuel, and hopefully get back out there on the track and maybe get some position here if the leaders do pit.
Yeah, and I'm starting to wonder, just who's doing that, just when it's going to happen. That makes me believe, Daniel Bowdler coming to pit road right now. So that leads me to believe, Sean, that we've got to. Oh, Bowdler.
Oh, no. It looks like he blew through the pit, so he blew the commitment cone there. So he will back up and try to drive down into the pits now, but no yellow flag. Everybody, oh wait, we got a lot of work going on out here.
I will say that I heard it on driver chat. Zimmerman was the car behind Daniel Bowdler. Bowdler let him know he was pitting, and he said, hey, I didn't hear you. So Devin Zimmerman actually making contact with the rear end of that 6 car, the reason for the spin from Daniel Bowdler.
Taking a look here, so we got Adam Pettit up front. Now Chad Wampler in the 812, that is not for position, so Chad Wampler is about 3 laps down, but he is on fresh tires, so that's going to be a little bit difficult for Adam Pettit, so he's going to put a little bit of pressure on him, but Adam's just going to let him go. You've got the fresher tires, buddy, you go ahead. No big deal there. So Adam Pettit still out front and still has a good 0.4 of a second lead on Dean Brummett.
Sean, did we have anyone near the rear pit on that last caution?
The latest person that we had pitting that was not in the past 10 laps was Brad Herman on lap 63. So he is on the lead lap, but his tire is only about 6 laps fresher than everybody else's. So not enough to really worry about. I will tell you that Jake Roel in the number 9 Striker Motorsports car, he did pit under green. He is a lap down currently, but he has fresh tires. So if the leaders do pit.
The reason I was asking is because if these leaders are close, if they're not 6 laps close, Brad Herman right now in the catbird seat to steal a win, which yet again, Sean, could change everything with how these playoffs work out. Anything can happen here, and if they're just, we'll say, 3 laps short on the 57 lap that they pitted, and he was 6 laps fresher than that. That mathematically means Brad Herman could go to the end. Now, of course, we don't know if Adam Pettit or some of these other guys have to pit here, but if by chance they do, it could get hairy for everyone else.
Well, I'll tell you that. So Brad Herman does not have the 8 races that are required to get into the playoffs. So even if he wins, he will not be able to join us for the playoffs. But what that will do is that will take the opportunity away from someone else to win and get in.
Gotcha. Okay, I wasn't sure. I knew he was close, but I wasn't sure if he had the required number of races. So obviously, as you said, any of these guys, I think you're going to see some guys going for broke. In the top 5 or so, Marshall Stanley, regardless whether or not he makes it, I think he tries it anyways. But I tell you what's starting to get concerning here, Sean. He's only 1.1 seconds out of the lead, being Marshall Stanley, who has made the required amount, if I'm not mistaken, to make the playoffs. So Marshall Stanley may be the quickest car on the racetrack right now in 3rd.
Well, actually, if you look at Jake Roel, who just passed Adam Pettit to get his lap back. And so Jake Roel just pitted on lap 82. So if these guys have to start pitting, or if there's a caution, then Jake Roel is going to have the freshest tires on the track, and he doesn't have to pit it anymore.
That is very true with what we have left. I heard the 4 now of Jay Graves, maybe the 83 of Chris Massey. So these guys must be close on fuel, Sean. Does someone play the gamble? Did Adam Pettit save enough? Does he have to rejoin pit road? We're going to find out here in just 6 more laps because that's all that's left in the regular season of MidSouth Madness. My anxiety, if you will, is at an all-time high for some of these guys because right now I see a driver in 4th place with everything on the line, everything to gain, nothing really to lose. Maybe takes the opportunity, stays out here on the racetrack, and could very well make the playoffs because right now I'm still looking, not seeing it yet. Maybe have missed it, but Taylor Smith is making it all so close between he and David Duke for position right now. I think Taylor finds himself, actually, I'm not seeing Taylor's name here.
He is back in 19th position as we speak. So 19th position is Taylor Smith, and there he is in the Paints by Night car.
So if by chance he pits and David Duke does not, that could change everything because I will tell you that Stan Houseman in 9th place, it's not going to cut it for his finishing position. If he gets that position, he will likely make it. I know he will make it over David Duke, but 4 to go, and some of these guys not coming down pit road. David Duke closing in on 3rd and 2nd place with the tires saved. So some more positions gained here. Right now, if David Duke was to get to 2nd, Taylor Smith lost 3 positions. If he loses 3 positions, that's it. Marshall Stanley, this time by, coming to pit road. So David Duke, does he have enough fuel? He's passing 3rd place right now. Sean, it's going to be close.
This is going to get crazy because Adam Pettit's got to be somewhere near that empty line. And so what happens if we go green-white checker here? I mean, does he have enough to do anything with it? Because David Duke might.
Yeah, and I think right now David Duke's going to drive that machine until she cuts off because if the car ahead of him runs out of fuel, that's it. It's David Duke's show to steal here. Now, while he's a little bit more than a second behind Adam Pettit, if that car starts to stutter and stumble, then you have nothing left. That means it's the David Duke show, and that starts to get worrisome for the guys on the cut line. I will tell you right now, if Duke can make it one more lap, it's going to be very close for the points. Daniel Dow out of fuel on the racetrack, so a top 5 driver, Sean, did not make it. Thomas Rutherford out of fuel. The SRN drivers, they're close. Can David Duke make it? Can Adam Pettit? Final lap, half a lap to go. Adam Pettit still looks very much underpowered down into turn 3. Brad Herman, I think, out of fuel. It looks like Adam Pettit starts to slow. I could be incorrect. Adam Pettit's going to power off at turn number 4 and win the thing.
Adam Pettit from Rev Racing wins the Last Chance 150. Now, he was already in the playoffs already, but, man, this is a huge monkey off of his back. He's been wanting this win all season long. Finally gets it. Congratulations, Adam Pettit.
Yeah, and I know I said it a few weeks ago. I knew we weren't going to have a season without a Rev Racing driver in victory lane, and Adam Pettit, the last opportunity in the regular season, gets it done at Chicagoland.
So Adam Pettit will bring it around, and he will get to burn down the tires.
Sean?
Yes, sir.
I don't mean to alarm you. Taylor Smith crossed the stripe in 20th position. That means it is an exact 19-point difference between he and David Duke. I think it was a 21-point difference between those two, but it's going to be so close.
It is going to be tight, and we are working with Jason Tripp right now, trying to get those final results as quickly as possible so we could possibly tell you what those are during the interview section here. So, but let's pull up the results for the race as Adam Pettit just burns it down here at Chicagoland Speedway. Congratulations, Adam Pettit. But our results, so Adam Pettit first place, David Duke second place, Brandon Key from Rev Racing in third, and Dean Brummett pulls up a really good finish in fourth.
And actually, my screen just went black. I think I have Troy Dow in 5th place, Jacob Smith in 6th place, Stan Houseman doing just what he needed to do in 7th, Jonathan Byer in 8th place.
Kyle Spees in 9th place for the do-gooders. Devin Zimmerman in 10th. Matthew Johnson in 11th. Chris Massey in 12th.
13th place is going to bring Sean Dice. 14th, Derek De Silva. 15th, Brad Yoinkman. And 16th, Joseph DuPont.
Wayne Rayburn is in 17th. Greg Olnick in 18th. Danny Setzer in 19th. And Taylor Smith, as we said, rounding it out in 20th position. All right, so while Jason Tripp is dealing with all of the fun stuff that happens on the back end that we don't really ask questions about, let's see if we can get a couple of these guys in here to talk to them. So let's start off with Brandon Key. He did come in 3rd position, so let's see if we can grab him from Rev'd Racing. Hey, Brandon. Sean and Brandon up in the booth. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Man, what a great finish. I mean, you were never really all the way up front, and then all of a sudden, here you are in 3rd place.
Yeah, man, I went to fuel saving mode there at the end just to make sure I could make it. And then the first run we had there, I was trying to save some tires, and that caution came out of lap 30, so kind of ruined my plans there.
Well, man, I mean, it's just great race. Now, your teammate up front, Adam Pettit. Now, you've known Adam for a long time, okay, and you guys have been teammates for a little while. And so this is one of those races that he just wanted to win it, even though he was already into the playoffs as it sits. What was the chat like in those last few laps?
Very, very quiet. But, I mean, if anybody deserves a win, it's probably Adam. He puts in countless amount of hours practicing and doing great things for our team. So I'm very happy for him and happy for our team overall tonight.
All right, man. Well, great race tonight. Can't wait to see what happens for the rest of the season and the playoffs. Buddy, congratulations on 3rd place tonight. We will see you back out on the track next week.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, we will drop you right back into Rev'd Racing so you guys can celebrate a little bit.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Brandon. So let's get David Duke in here. So he was your pick for the night. Let's see what he's up to. David, Sean, and Brandon up in the booth. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going pretty good, fellas. How are y'all?
Doing good. We were watching you all race long, knowing that you needed a great race. You got a great race out of it. We are checking those standings right now as we speak to see if you got in or not. But what was it like getting around there towards the end of the race?
It was good, man. Car was good. I mean, I was trying to drive a conservative race early. I know I fell back a few spots and got in some traffic, but I was trying to save my tires and be there at the end. I was there. I don't know. I probably needed about another 5 laps or so. Good run by Adam. I mean, he was class of the field all night long, but looking at the points, I don't think I got there.
Yeah,
I think
we're checking
Duke,
it.
I think it's going to be a 3-point difference. I'm trying to compile it right now to see, but I think 3 points separate you from Taylor Smith. I'm just going through right now and looking officially at who's in and who's out. So I will let Sean continue your interview, and hopefully by the end of it, I will be able to know for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks.
Unfortunately, what I'm seeing right now, you will be out of the playoffs, but your teammate Danny Dow is definitely in there, and he is going to need you right next to his side the entire time. So what are you seeing for the playoffs coming up with Danny Dow being in there?
I think it's going to be a good fight. Obviously everybody in the playoffs is really, really good. I mean, they wouldn't be in there if they weren't, but I don't know. I think Dow likes to turn the heat up when the going gets good. I got a feeling he'll be there. It'll be a good show though.
Absolutely. So, man, sorry to hear that you're not in the playoffs. We wish you were. I know Brandon picked you for this race, and we saw you coming on strong towards the end. Did you have enough fuel to go to a green-white checker if that happened?
Yeah, I would have been a lap and a half to the good on a green-white checker. I know when we got that caution at lap, I believe it was lap 60 or 59 or something like that, I knew that I could go somewhere around 41 laps. So I was cutting it off that whole caution cycle, and then the whole next caution cycle, I was cutting it off and coasting. I was good.
All right, man. Well, congratulations on a great race tonight. We will still see you next week, and can't wait to see you in victory lane during the playoffs, even though I know you're not in the playoffs, but you're always a threat out there, man.
Yep. Thanks. Y'all have a good one.
All right, buddy. You too.
Congratulations on a second place, buddy.
Thanks.
So,
Oh.
Sean, I want to say before we pull up our winner, when it comes down to the playoffs, Taylor Smith 1 point over Sean Dice, 3 points over David Duke for the position. So a 3-point spread among 3 drivers for that final spot. Again, as you said, Taylor Smith going to hold the final transfer spot into the playoffs.
So from what we can see, Taylor Smith is the cut position. We will tell you that Stan Houseman is in on points. Joseph DuPont is in on points. Matthew Johnson in on points. Devin Zimmerman and Aaron Gerwitz in on points as well. So fantastic race. So let's see if we can't get our race winner in here. I know he's been waiting for it. I'm pretty sure he's been waiting on us to bring him up into the broadcast booth. So here we go. Adam Pettit, Sean, and Brandon up in the booth, man. Great race.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Man, you sounded so confident when we talked to you before that you could catch up at any time. What was it about the car tonight that just fit what you did?
Of every track that iRacing has, I have probably turned the most laps here by far. It's just, I don't know what it is about this place. I just love it. I've been able to figure it out. I did some official races a couple months ago, ran 6 races, had 4 wins, a second and a third. So something about this track just kind of fits to me. And then when that last caution came out with, I think, about 30 to go, I knew it was going to be a fuel game then. So I just wanted to get the lead and just save fuel. And I crossed the stripe with 0.4 gallons left. So.
Well, we talked a little bit earlier that, these 1.5 to 2 mile tracks, this is kind of your bread and butter. And so that's all that's left on the schedule are these 1.5 to 2 mile ovals. We're going to Michigan next. What do you see going forward for the playoffs?
Michigan's honestly going to be a lot of practice. I haven't run much at Michigan, but I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to get out of there in the next round of playoffs. But if not, it is what it is. Just glad I got the W here. But the big thing, like I said, it's just going to be a lot of practice for Michigan. And hopefully I can get my teammates in there, which I'm sure I can, because going around Michigan, single car is totally different than trying to pass because it's, multi-groove and, there's a lot of aero stuff going on there. So Rev Racing's going to be putting in some work this week, and hopefully me and Aaron can do Rev proud in the playoffs.
Well, man, what a great race tonight. Glad to hear that you're in the playoffs. Aaron Gerwitz in as well. We will let you know Sean Dice missed it by 1 single point. And so very disappointing for him, obviously. But you will definitely have your teammates out there on the track at Michigan. Man, enjoy the night. Enjoy the week. We will see you next week.
Thank you. Hey, and thanks, guys, for doing the broadcast. I want to thank Corey and Jason for the league as well. And I'd like to thank my Red Racing teammates. Thank you guys very much.
All right,
Real
buddy.
quick before you go.
Oh, yeah.
Before you go, man. I know we didn't get off to the greatest of starts. Congratulations on a hard-earned win, man. I'm so glad to see that 57 car in victory lane. You deserve it more than anyone out here, and I know you're going to do huge, huge things in the playoffs coming forward, buddy. Go win that $500.
Thank you very much, Brandon. I appreciate it, bud.
All right, guys.
All right.
Have a great night.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Brandon.
No problem, buddy.
All right, Brandon, let's talk about next week. So here we go. We are in the playoffs now.
You see at the Wide and Fast 150 Michigan International Speedway, the driver going in with the most momentum. You just heard from him, Adam Pettit. Sean, I think he has another strong finish at Michigan. And I think he really sets the tone for the guys, Dean Brummett, Jake Rowell, Bobby Brill, all of the guys we saw win early and have great success. I think the pressure should be on now because Adam Pettit has shown he's the real deal. He's coming for the top spot and the $500.
Man, I mean, and if he can keep this up, and again, he is really good at these 1.5 to 2 mile tracks, then there is nothing that can stop him on his way to that championship. Brandon, it is going to be a fantastic road to those throughout those playoffs. It is going to be so much fun to watch that. But as for tonight's race, is all Adam Pettit. There he is, burning it out there on the track. Everybody have a fantastic week. For myself, Sean Griffith, and my broadcast partner, Brandon Superman Brand Browning. Everybody have a great week. We will see you next week at Michigan.